Welcome to Blue Compass, where we're talking about the differences between SEO and GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. So if you do any type of online marketing, you might know that search engine optimization and then generative engine optimization or answer engine optimization is actually kind of similar. A lot of the tactics that you do for SEO is beneficial for GEO and AEO, but there are some significant differences too that are really helpful to be aware of. So today I have Dani and Katrina with me, two of our digital marketing experts here at Blue Compass. We do this thing all the time at our digital marketing agency. So I wanted to start off and just kind of ask you about this. And let's start off with meta titles and meta descriptions, Dani. So these are the little words that you see, like if you do a traditional Google search, you see the meta titles, that blue title, the meta description is underneath it. This is really important for SEO, for instance, and this is, for 25 years, this has been really a staple, writing really good meta titles and meta descriptions for each one of your pages. Dani, how does this affect generative engines like ChatGPT?
Yep, it's different in that for SEO, it's really about getting somebody to click. And for GEO, when you're optimizing your meta titles and descriptions, you really want to help Google and other AI tools understand what the page is about. So instead of trying to entice someone to click, you're trying to educate them and search engines on what that actual page is about. Right. And so for that reason, you want to make sure that your title and description are very clear in terms of what that entire page is about. And you want that page to have a very specific purpose in your content strategy. Another thing that we are seeing is that the title lengths and the description lengths are different for GEO. So for title, it's a little bit shorter, 40 to 50 characters. Typically, it's easiest to just cut your brand name out of there, and that will get you under that character count. For description, we actually have a little bit more room because, again, we're trying to tell Google and other search engines and AI tools what that page is about. And so we have a little bit more room there, 120 to 150 characters. So really thinking about what is the context of the page and educating Google and AI tools on what that is. And then for SEO, it's really, this is what I want you to click on.
Yeah.
And we see there's multiple ways that those citations and our meta titles and descriptions show up in GEO, whether it's ChatGPT, Perplexity. Sometimes it's just like a little link icon with your brand name. Sometimes you do get more of that meta title and description coming in. And we see the most opportunity for that bigger real estate and more title and description showing up when we're really using that description to summarize that first paragraph. Like the bots really want you to give a summary and not focus on, okay, these are all the things we're covering on that page. Like they want that continuous experience from the end, like the GEO engine into that page result. So people really feel like they're getting the same messaging across both platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just, I guess, being a little more purposeful about being descriptive of what the content is on the whole page versus just enticing someone to click.
Yeah, click here, learn more. Totally a thing of the past if you're focused on GEO. Focus more on using those characters to give them that description of what they're going to read and learn more about.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, Katrina, so one of the things we talk a lot about here at Blue Compass is semantic search code, or schema markup as it's called. And basically, like, this is code that you can put on your web pages, and it's kind of like a shortcut that tells search bots what your page is about, and it saves them time. And we found over the years, like, we've been doing this for many years, and it really can be very beneficial in getting more visibility for your page in SEO. So schema is great, but I know schema also has an impact on generative engines. How does that work? Is it different?
Absolutely. We're actually using very different schema types, literally like the type of schema we're writing, what at types are involved with it for GEO than we do for SEO. So on the GEO side, we care a lot more about the context of where does a specific page fit in your entire navigation and in your content architecture. So GEO, we care more about web page schema. Like web page schema was the first schema back in the day when we started using schema. And then from SEO purposes, it was literally like, if we saw somebody using that, we'd be like, look at these fools back in 2012 over here, not using real schema. But now that's really good for GEO. So it's web page breadcrumb schema. Even if you don't have clickable breadcrumbs at the top, like right under your navigation, using breadcrumb schema and helping a bot understand like, okay, this is on the third level, this is surrounded by this other type of content. Those pieces that really do feel old school from an SEO perspective are really critical from a GEO perspective. There's also really cool ways if you want to get really nerdy with the whole situation.
Which we do.
We do, Blue Compass, we're all nerds around here. We're actually using things like grid formats. So we can nest even more pieces of schema together that wouldn't necessarily be helpful on the SEO side because there's not rich results for all of these things. And that's why we care about schema from the SEO side is like, how can we take up more real estate? But here it's about how can we give more context? How can we layer more pieces together? So the infinite combinations of how we can build things together, like the puzzle just got 10 times bigger and there's so much more stuff for us to use. So using grid formats allows you to have 10 to 15 different pieces of schema that didn't traditionally work together, now layered together. Yeah. So I get really excited about this.
I think so. That's a great example of how, there's so many marketing people and agencies out there, and they believe like GEO, AEO, SEO is all just about the words on the page. But this is a really more like technical, complex thing, this schema markup. And everything you just said was very nerdy. Very cool, very nerdy.
Yes.
And so that's why it's so beneficial to find, a digital marketing partner that actually has some development expertise and some technical SEO and GEO expertise like this. So if we can help you on your website with this sort of thing, we do this for our clients all the time. Feel free to reach out to us. So, okay, I got to bring up, marketers talk all the time about owned media versus earned media.
Yep.
So Katrina, could you tell us what is owned, what is earned, and how does that impact SEO or GEO?
Absolutely. So owned media is any platform you have control over. So think your website, you have full control to update what content's on there, your social profiles, if you have any subdomains, shop stores, anything like that you can fully update and control, that's yours, that's your owned media. Earned media is mentions or references to your site that come from somewhere else. So this could be a link from a news story. This could be another brand mentioning you and saying you're a good partner. This honestly can go as far as to be like your Google reviews that you get from a user or somebody talking about you on a social platform that's not on your feed. All of those things are ways that you earn more brand visibility, brand mentions, and potentially backlinks to your website. And on the GEO side, that is so much more important. SEO, backlinks were important. We've heard things like backlinks, domain authority. We know that was critical, but there was so much you could do on your own platforms to make up for it if you didn't have the volume of backlinks that maybe a competitor had. But on the GEO side, social proof is extremely critical. And you get that social proof by being talked about in other spaces. And I know we're going to talk about mentions a little bit, but really focusing on how are people perceiving your brand and how are you being talked about, whether it's on a podcast, on a YouTube video, like anywhere that you're getting talked about outside of your controlled platforms is really helpful. This can even get into if your team members are sharing things about your company on their social media profiles, like all of those things help with this because it's off of a branded profile or branded entity that you don't control.
Yes, absolutely.
I think the big theme throughout all of these tactics is trust. Like GEO really cares about trust and knowing what is your expertise? Can we trust this company and this brand to, educate users on this topic? And even when we were talking about schema, like that's all about what is the full picture so that search engines know that they can reference you because you are a trustworthy speaker on that topic.
Yeah.
It's all about context.
All about context, yeah. And I think we've seen that a lot, like you mentioned, all these mentions from these different sources really, really is impacting like ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and all these different platforms. And when you do a search and you look at the sources, oftentimes, okay, it's from Reddit, it's from a podcast, it's from a YouTube video, it's from a social post, mostly websites too, of course, but it's just like these platforms are very interested in what third parties are saying about your products, your service, your brand, your topic, etc.
Absolutely.
So speaking of YouTube videos, Dani, okay, what about video? Could you tell us a little bit about the differences for video for SEO and generative engine optimization?
Yep. Right now we're seeing that video is still more important for SEO in terms of the video search results, right? If you post a video on YouTube, that can be directly pulled into search results that are relevant to the topic of that video. For GEO, like ChatGPT, Perplexity, they're not necessarily watching and rendering videos in their search results. Where video can be helpful for GEO is if it's on a longer page where there's additional content, that video is supporting the content on that page, and you do use schema, again, kind of like telling the full picture of what that video is about. It can be helpful with GEO, but again, you're not going to get video results in a ChatGPT or Perplexity. So it's not to say that video isn't important. It's just that posting a video on YouTube by itself isn't going to benefit you as much on the GEO side as it is on SEO. So making sure that if you do want that to support your GEO strategy, that you're creating a page on your website that gives more context for that video, and that you're using that video schema to, again, kind of build that full trustworthiness on that topic.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that I wanted to bring up was the idea of, I guess, basically authentic content, original content. And we all know that this is really important for search engine optimization. And Google has the principle of EEAT, expertise, experience, authority, trust. And Google's had this for years. And basically Google's whole idea is, it really wants content that is backed by an individual, if possible, and not just an organization, that has authority behind it. Of course, that's original, not AI generated, and that sort of thing. So obviously, like, high quality original content is very valuable for SEO. And it is for generative engines as well. That's really important. And I think one of the things maybe I have seen, and I'd love your thoughts on it, is that original content that doesn't exist elsewhere probably matters even more for generative AI. And I think one of the reasons is, we could like write an article on our website and we could say, like right now we have an article on our website that talks about the top 20 web design trends from this year that we are seeing, which is great. And it gives our original thoughts and opinions on each one, but it's not entirely original because all these styles already exist and everything. So, but that page still does really well in SEO. It does really well on our websites. I mean, we get like thousands and thousands of visits on that page. Whereas when you do a generative engine search, generative engines don't create new things themselves. They only look at what exists out there. And so to rank in there, you have to come up. One of the things that we've seen helps is something that's entirely original and doesn't exist elsewhere on the web. So for instance, if you do a survey or a study that doesn't exist elsewhere, something for your industry that has to do with your product or service, that's really interesting and valuable to your audience, like that sort of thing can do really well in generative engines. So an example of this is, some people in marketing think that website traffic is going down because of generative engines, and it is in some cases. So we decided to write an article about it. We're currently writing it, but instead of just report other studies and what other people saying, we actually did research on the hundreds and hundreds of websites that we host and we maintain and we keep an eye on here. And so that doesn't exist elsewhere. That's original. That's great for our website and SEO, but it could be even better for generative engine optimization. Yeah. So what do you think?
I think people get so nervous about the prospect of creating their own first-party data, but it doesn't always have to be that hard. What are your customers telling you? Like if you're a service-based industry and you want to be able to get this authority and have this first-party data that you're talking about here, Drew, ask your customers, like, what are the top 5 questions we're getting while we're out on sales calls? You can combine those together, give really unique answers to it and say, these are the top 5 trends we're seeing in our industry that help our service. That's now new. That's now different, as long as you're packaging it the right way. And that wouldn't take a company a ton of time to put together. We call up 3 of our top salespeople, we can get that information right away. So I think that there's ways to get to this value you're talking about without putting strain on the entire organization or feeling like it has to be this really grand, really analytical situation. And there's so many ways we can get this with a little bit less work and still feeling like we're giving something really valuable to appease that need for newness and authenticity with generative engine optimization.
Yeah, I would say, if you're really serious about ranking in generative engines, think about what content can you create on your website that is original and doesn't exist elsewhere, but will still add value to your audience.
Absolutely.
Really powerful thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for your thoughts, Katrina, Dani. We really appreciate it. And again, if we can help you with any of this, we're GEO experts, AEO, SEO, all of that sort of thing. We do it all the time here at Blue Compass. We also build really great websites that perform well in the age of AI. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thanks. We'll talk to you next time.